It's been a while since I was doing a presentation in India, and this time when we got the invitation to participate at this fantastic event at a venue in a state that I haven't visited before, I just had to take the opportunity. I also wanted to take the opportunity to tell a different story than we usually do, a more inside, behind the doors story of entrepreneurship and how we got started, and the different opportunities that arose through a series, a chain of events really, that I'll walk you guys through in a minute. The point of this whole presentation is to be able to share some bits of our story. Again, the kind of stuff that entrepreneurs usually maybe only share on one-on-ones with each other. And throughout the day, I'll be around. I'd love to connect with all you guys and hear your stories as well. So I'll start with how we got started with Truecaller. So me and my co-founder, Alan Mamedi, we were discussing this one day, that we were getting phone calls and text messages from people who we didn't know who they were. And it was weird to us because we had, that's Alan and that's me. It's a bit of a bad picture, but this is when we started Truecaller back in 2009. We were discussing how we can build something globally. As was mentioned earlier, we had built 2 services before that were strictly for Sweden, and we kind of felt like that was limiting us, that there was a bigger opportunity out there, and we wanted to try it out. Both being cell phone geeks, smartphones starting to pick up. iPhone had launched, iPhone 3 had launched just in 2009 with the App Store. That was revolutionary. Android was just getting launched across Europe. And we saw this big opportunity, but at the same time we had a problem ourselves, which was that we were getting these phone calls from friends and family across the world, and these phone numbers didn't have a person behind them or a business behind them. I couldn't know who that person was. It seemed like a trivial thing to solve, because in Sweden you actually have So in Sweden you actually have public directories where you can look up people by even name. So you would type in my name in one of these directories. You'll find even today my address, my home address, my mobile phone number, my landline number, and my birthday. And this is all public information. And we've grown up with this, growing up in Stockholm in Sweden. And we believe that this creates tremendous value in society. It creates transparency, it creates dependency. Like, you would know that this person that you're speaking to today is not going to disappear off the face of earth tomorrow when you're doing business with him. And like I said, it creates trust in the fabrics of society, because you know that you can depend on these people to be around. But that was in Sweden. Now, how do you solve that globally? That was what our challenge was, and that was why we built Truecaller. Initially, we thought we'll solve it for ourselves, but after a bit of conversation, we decided that we'll upload it on one of the developer forums called XDA Forums back then, where we uploaded this version of Truecaller, and a lot of other developers. In fact, 10,000 people downloaded the app. And it wasn't through an app store. It was like they actually downloaded it, transferred it with cable to their cell phone, and installed. And so they installed the application and gave us a lot of feedback. And that was within the scope of 1 week. We got those 10,000 users. That's when we realized that this was better than any of the 2 other companies that we had started, that we have to get on board with this and work full time with this. So we started to knock around doors, call families and friends, asking if they wanted to invest. We got around 5 people who did a seed investment of $200,000. And I dropped out of university, and Alan quit his job. 2nd January 2010 was our first full-time job at Truecaller. About a week later, we had our first board meeting with these new board members. And I don't know how it is for other companies. I think most people I ask, they say that their first board meetings are usually kind of like a honeymoon period, you know, where everything is rosy. I just invested, you guys are great, let's do it, you know, all that stuff. Our first board meeting was a fight. And the reason it was a fight was because we came to the board with a suggestion that we want to recruit this guy called Umut Alp. He was a back-end engineer who had built our Android version, and we wanted to recruit him so he starts to work with us full-time. And I remember this very vividly. One of our board members, he picked up his iPhone. Everyone had iPhones, obviously, among investors. And he keeps swiping it. And he says, you know, in 5 years, every person in this world will have an iPhone, and they will be sitting like this, have a smooth, great experience. And you guys will be sitting, developing on your Android, and it will be slow, and it will be painful, and it will be a horrible experience. That's what you're building for. We just stayed quiet, and we said, okay, thank you for the feedback. And next thing we said, well, he can actually develop for the iPhone as well. And they said, you can't get a specialist that is specialist on two things. He has to be a specialist on one thing. Like, decide, are you going to do iPhone or Android? We said, we want to do both. We want to do everything. So there was a lot of discussions, a lot of disagreements. Basically, it was only me and Alan who agreed on this specific point. And we went ahead and recruited Umut. And he went ahead and built our first Android client, our first iOS client, our first BlackBerry client, Series 40 client, as well as in 2013 taking over the whole backend and rebuilding it as it was crumbling with the backend that me and Alan had built because of the number of users we had. He rebuilt the whole thing. As it turns out, his specialty was actually building scalable backends. So, just trust your gut feeling when you meet the right people and you want to recruit them. Just connecting to the previous speaker, I think it's really important to go with your gut feeling. You can notice immediately if this person is good or what you want to have. Now, just going forward a couple of months, next board meeting happens. And the first thing that happens is they ask, how's things going, what's going on? And we say, everything is great, but we're a bit concerned because we get all these negative reviews and we don't understand why. The same guy that picked up his phone, he said, on the iPhone thing, he said, so why don't you call your users and just ask them what's wrong? Like, we can't call people just randomly and ask them, what's wrong with my app? He says, yes, of course you can. Just call them. What's the problem? You're giving them a service. You're trying to support them and help them. They've taken time out of their life to write you a review. The least you can do is give attention to it. Like, okay. We go back to the office. We start to look at the different reviews. We start to contact people, connect with them, and finally get the courage to actually call them up. And when we call them, we're really surprised of what we're hearing. We asked them, you gave us 1-star review, you said it doesn't work, by either tagging information themselves or adding information post a call. So once you receive a phone call, if you don't know who the caller is, there's actually an edit name button, and you can add the name to it. And then if enough people say that this is Priyam, for instance, it will become Priyam. Now I'm pointing at you, Priyam. So, it was a very simple solution, and it created a lot of growth. This was, I think, a pivot for us in terms of our mindset around what type of company we're building, that we're actually building a community rather than just a product that connects to different directories. But we didn't really have time to think about think about our growth because we were running out of money. I think as most startups do, like you get your first seed money, it's going to last you 12, 18 months. This is the same case for us. So we're running out of money. We basically have 2-3 months left, and we are feeling the pressure, both from the board, but also from we've invested our lives into doing this thing, we want to do it. And very randomly, we get an email from the CEO of this company called Fonecta. Now, Fonecta is a directory service in Finland who basically do the same things, like they publish information, you can search for people and businesses, and all that information is public. And they felt like they had missed out on the whole smartphone thing. This was early 2012. They felt like they had already missed out on the smartphone thing and wanted to white label Truecaller, call it Fonecta Caller, and offer us a license deal. We said, that's great, we're running out of cash, let's do it. So we signed a deal where we would get €1, I think that's like 80 rupees or something, per download of this application, which is just a rebranded version of Truecaller. And they get exclusivity in the Finnish market during this period. So they go out and promote it. They tell us, we have budgeted for 20,000 downloads during 2012. And if it hits 20,000 downloads, then it's going to be the most successful product, mobile product that we have. Said, okay, great. So we did the launch. We helped kind of pushing it and did a bunch of social things. After 3 months, the CEO calls, very nervous. Guys, everyone loves this application. We've already hit 120,000 downloads. We cannot afford to continue this partnership. We have to do something about it. Please fly over to Finland and meet us. We'll discuss different solutions. We're like, we were super happy, of course. The 120,000 downloads was going to pay our bills for a long time. But we jumped on a flight, went over to Finland, and kind of met the CEO. And it was just me and Alan. We thought, it's just going to be him. But there's 10 people in the room when we walk in. There's the business development guy, there's the M&A guy, there's the product guy, the developer, and the legal guy. And we're like, is this a war room? What's going on? So we're just sitting there being quite intimidated. We're 25 years old. And being quite intimidated by this whole thing. And the CEO started off saying, look, there's 3 solutions to this. Either we acquire you guys, let's say 10 million euros. Track 2 is that you guys continue to work as consultants for Fonecta, and the team that has built Truecaller so far continues to build Fonecta Caller, but we will pay a really handsome fee for the consulting. And we'll sign a 2-year contract or 3-year contract or something like that. The third option is that we just buy your IP, and we get exclusivity in the Finnish market. You guys, do whatever you want. And we went back home. We called up our board and told them what's going on, and they're like, okay, so what do you want to do? And they said, you guys own half of the company. 10 million euros, which means that you will make 2.5 million euros each. That's a lot of money for someone in your age. And we said, yeah, we know, but that's not what we wanted to do. We want to continue this journey. So they said, oh, great, what a great relief, let's do it. So which of the options do you want to take? We couldn't decide. We kind of felt like we owe it to the board to make sure that we have a sustainable company with these revenues coming in 2 and 3 years, these people trusting us and following our lead here. So we kind of slept on it for 2-3 days. And I called up Alan one morning and I tell him, Alan, I really don't think that this is the right thing for us. We cannot be consultants. I did not sign up for this to be a consultant. I want us to build Truecaller. It'll be great, it'll be big. We have to continue focusing on that vision. And he just takes a deep breath and he says, I thought I was the only one thinking like that. I'm so glad that you mentioned it. Otherwise we would have gone with consultancy. And we decided that we'll just call up the board and see how they react to it. They were super supportive. They said, we've invested in you guys. You're the ones with the vision. Just go ahead and keep doing what you're doing. And that's the time we actually sold the IP to Fonecta for that version of Truecaller. They got exclusivity in Finland, and we got to work on the rest of the world with some pocket change. So what we did next was, there's all this talk about Truecaller and the growth, etc., etc. It actually took a good 2-3 years for us to get to that growth. And the first country where it happened was Lebanon. Now, we didn't have any specific connections to Lebanon. There was no specific reasons why Lebanon would grow, but it happened. And one day, Alan's friend calls him up and says, you guys are on the primetime news in Lebanon. You should check this out. He sends a link, and there's this journalist. For 4 minutes, they're walking around on the streets in Beirut and asking people, what do you think of Truecaller? What do you think of Truecaller? And people are raving about it. And so we're like, what happened? How could we miss this? It turns out Lebanon is a quite small country. They had at the time 4.5 million in population. And what they did, when it grew, we had to look at, what was it that created this growth specifically in Lebanon? Because we're not from Lebanon, so there was no specific reason why it would be Lebanon. We started to look at the data. We started to look at the new users, our DAU, and the growth that these different graphs had, and we overlaid them on each other, and saw that they weren't really connecting. There was something missing. So we started to overlay them with other graphs, and we found this one graph where it actually made perfect sense what's going on in Lebanon. And that was the graph we call hit rate, which means if you make 10 searches, how many of those searches are we able to give you a response to? And it turns out there's 2 magic numbers for thresholds for those numbers. If you reach those thresholds, you're having a breakthrough in your product. And we decided we'll want to try this. So we used our 2,000 euro budget to acquire users in a country quite similar to Lebanon, we found, which is Jordan. So we acquired users in Jordan, and within 6 months, 3 to 6 months, we saw the exact same pattern happening in Jordan. And we were like, yes, finally, we found our growth metric. Now we know exactly how we can replicate this across all the markets around the world. And that was a great thing, we thought, until this happened. So we're in a growth stage. Even India is growing now, and to our pride, Android is just about to surpass the number of downloads compared to iPhone, which was a big battle for us. We won it. We felt like super proud of that. But then this happens. We get an email from Google one morning that says, your account has been frozen. Your app has been taken off the Play Store. Don't contact us. This email you cannot reply to. You've broken our policies, and that's why you're getting this email. Done deal. We're like, what? We're just about to raise money. Like, are the investors getting nervous? Like, what's going on? If you guys believe that this was the future, why is this happening to us? What did you guys do? Why did you break the policy? How did you break the policy? And we tried to contact Google. We tried to contact anyone that we could get in touch with, and it's a stone wall. It was so frustrating. It was so frustrating. So we spent a lot of time trying to get in touch with people until we finally get in touch with this guy, COO of Google Sweden. And he agrees to have a coffee with us, and he says, guys, you have to stop hunting down people that work at Google. They're really uncomfortable when you guys reach out to them. No one wants you to do that. Please stop doing it. And we're like, okay, but at least tell us what we did. Like, we understand we broke something, but what was it that we broke? And they get back to us saying, he gets back and he says, well, I've checked on what happened, and you guys have reviewed your app over 100 times. And we said, so? I mean, we were reviewing it using our own account. You can even check the comments. We're just writing, because there was a lot of people saying it doesn't work, we were just writing, please email us on info@Truecaller, support@Truecaller, please email us. And we're trying to get that feedback. And he says, it doesn't matter. You can't do that according to policy. Because to Google, that means that you're trying to game the ranking system of the Play Store. And we said, but we used only one account. Like, you should count that as a unique review, not 100 reviews. He's like, you know, Android is really new, take it easy, it's not there yet, we'll fix those things, but you guys are out. Just please stop contacting people at Google. And you know, we come back, we have such a heartburn from this thing because of all the time that we had spent investing in it. So we just come back to the office, we discuss among the team, and we decide to continue developing our Android product, but just putting it on our website. Obviously the downloads dip, everything is, you know, things are not working out great. Exactly a year after the first email was sent by Google, exactly a year after, I get a phone call from this guy Sven at Google, and he tells me, Nami, I have some good news. Like, what's going on? So the Google team has been following your guys' progress. Actually, the Android team in New York, they love your product. So, you know, you're welcome back to the Android community, but please don't break any policies anymore. Or like, you know, I start to cry. I'm so emotional. I'm like, you know, I start to cry. We hang up. I get an email from him to confirm this. I call up Alan and I tell him, you know, we're back. I got this call, and Alan's like, stop messing around with me. He's not even believing it, because at the time we were doing a lot of practical jokes on each other. So he's not even believing me. We go to the office, we get the upload done, and we celebrate with the team. We're super happy. Exactly 1 week later, same email that we got a year before saying, you guys are out, you broke the policy, blah, blah, blah. We're like, what the hell? We didn't do anything. I call up this guy Sven, and I'm like, we didn't do anything. I swear we didn't do anything. He's like, let me check it and get back to you. He gets back to me the next day. He says, so there's this company in the US called Path. That's a social network. I don't know if you guys remember that one. But they apparently uploaded the phone books of their users and then sent text messages to all the contacts that they uploaded saying, hey, Nami is on Path, you should download Path too. And a lot of people started to complain about this, like, this is spam, you know, and the FTC in the US goes in and says, like, points with the whole hand to Google, says you have to remove this app, and the same thing to Apple. And you have to remove any app that has access to contacts or uploads contact. So he tells us, like, this is the story and this is why you guys are taken out. And I'm like, so it's okay if we just remove the contact access? It's like, yeah, that should do it. Like, okay, we just remove the contact access, and the next day we're back on the Play Store. And this was kind of one of the most dramatic things that happened to the company, because throughout this period, I can assure you, for 1 year, you're taken out of the biggest, you know, marketplace for apps. In our case, you start to think, like, is Google trying to do this themselves? What's going on? Like, you start to have these conspiracy theories. It's a really tough time to be a founder and, like, you know, be able to share these kind of things with your investors, and them still backing you is also really tough. But you know, we managed to get through it. So I'll just round up here by some of the key learnings that we had, which were go with your gut feelings when it comes to recruiting. Listen to your users, engage with them, learn. We keep doing that even today. Like, you know, when there's different forums that both me and Alan are active on. We have Twitter, we have Facebook, we have all these different channels, support, etc., where we're actually, as founders, still very much active. Near-death experiences are moments of truth. Like, for us, it was near-death experience, and we've had many. But at that point of time, a lot of companies and a lot of founders kind of show color, and you have to decide on which path you want to take, and if you're going to be persistent and have enough grit to continue on that path. Don't chase the market, let the market come to you. There was a lot of times where our investors, or we met with investors, and they refused, like, they didn't even want to talk to us. They're like, you guys are, you know, growing in Middle East and in India, and, you know, doesn't matter. I think one of our investors said it best. Up until 2014, India was a bug, not a feature. But now, since a lot of Google and Facebook and all the other companies suddenly start to look at India as a market, suddenly it's hot. But we were there already from the beginning. We were dedicated to the India market, and we wanted to build more experiences for the emerging markets. So just don't try to force yourself into a market. Let them come to you and just expand on that. And then finally, when giants move, you may be devastated, but don't give up. So that relates obviously to our Google adventure. So I think that was it for me. Some key learnings. I hope to be engaging with you guys throughout the day. Please catch me or my team whenever you see us around. Thanks everyone.
Yours is a wonderful product and people really love it. But my question is slightly tricky because today you have all these problems with Facebook, Cambridge Analytica, and how do you handle the privacy issues? Because obviously you have a lot of data with respect to the your customers, and are they in India or are they outside? If it is outside, how do you what is your policy to handle privacy? Thank you.
Great, thank you for that question. I think it's a very relevant question, especially right now. And we actually, since very early on, we took a decision that we don't want to have APIs. That anything that we do in our app should be consent-based, and that anything that we do in our app, the user should be able to reverse, including being included in the app. Like if someone calls me and it says Priyam, and Priyam wants to remove himself from our directory, the right to be forgotten has been there since the beginning inside of Truecaller. And these are all kind of new regulations that has happened over time as different entities or different whether it's government or private companies or public companies have realized that these things can be used for negative purposes, or that there's actually a right to privacy between people, etc. And that's been our motto all along, because we believe that it's your right to know who's calling you. If you think about it, your phone is becoming increasingly personal, just like your home. And when someone knocks on your door, it's your right to peep on the peephole and see who's behind there. That no one should be able to stop you from doing that if that's what you want to do. And that's what Truecaller brings, along with a community that adds that safety and makes sure that those people that you communicate with are actually safe, or not going to disturb you, or not going to fraud or those kind of cases. So I think the way we look at those things are like we're trying to build those into the app, as opposed to and into the service in general. You don't even have to be a Truecaller user to edit your information or delete it. So I think we've had a fundamentally different view on privacy and how people should be able to engage with the service regardless of being a user or not from the beginning.
Most popular question that we've received. How does Truecaller make money?
Is that the most popular question? Oh, that's great. We have a fantastic team here in India that works together with Google, actually, and on our ads platform. So we have a lot of unique capabilities on our ads platform that we'll be happy to walk you through. But basically, we have ads in the application. And there's like a lot of brands. Recently, we broke some records together with Maruti when we did a brand advertisement together with them, a brand campaign. And besides that, there's also the premium feature inside of Truecaller, the Pro feature, which is a subscription, monthly or yearly, and it removes ads and gives you contact requests. And we're building on that feature set as well as we speak. So monetization is important. It is important in our stage of the company to actually move towards having a sustainable business standing on its own legs, not being dependent on investors. So that's how we think about monetization and where we are right now.
Yeah. Mr. NAMI, just one question. I mean, it's very true that the Truecaller has changed our lives a lot. We could greet a person, an incoming call, by the name of the person, even if he's not in the contact list. But the question to you is, see, we are in the habit of using multiple mobile devices. Sometimes a battery dies out. And
So I can't hear you. I think there was a switch in the sound somewhere.
problem, huh? Can I?
Yeah.
Yeah. See, what I was trying to say is, see, what I was trying to say was, is it okay now? What I was trying to ask you is whether we can, like, see, it's very true that with Truecaller, if somebody calls me, even if it's a stranger, because the name flashes, I will be able to address him by the name. But sometimes what happens is, since we are in the habit of using multiple mobile devices, when the battery dies, I lose that call history. Is it possible to have a cloud-enabled Truecaller system? In the sense that I log into that, and I can get it in other devices also. I can retrieve the call list and other things from another device. Is it possible?
Yeah, so basically having multiple profiles inside of Truecaller is kind of the question, if that's possible. And that is a request that has been around for a couple of years now. We're definitely addressing that this year. So keep an eye out. What else we're doing is we're actually also adding such that you as a business, because a lot of people have their personal number and their business number, or they're both the same, or both are business numbers, you should be able to tag yourself and kind of make yourself be visible as a business as well, or as a profession even. Because what we've also noticed is among our tags, like private citizens are using it to kind of show which, like what kind of company they're working at, rather than actually using it to explain that they are a business. So these are kind of the things that we've noticed, we've heard our users, and we're working on fixing them. Oh, yeah, and then of course there's backup and restore as well. So if you want to, anyone that you ever communicate with inside of Truecaller or even outside of Truecaller, all of those contacts, whether they are in your phone book or unknown contacts, you can actually nowadays go to the contacts tab. There will be a Truecaller contacts cell, and you can tap that one. All of the people that you've communicated will be right there. So the guy that sold you your car 3 months ago and you didn't save his phone number, or someone that you spoke to 6 months ago and you want to connect again, all of those contacts will be there for you.
How many numbers did you start with? I mean, when Truecaller came, how many numbers you had first? Datas, user datas.
Sorry, for Truecaller when we started?
In Sweden, you started with how many numbers of users? I mean, user datas.
Yeah, so it was about, the first week it was 10,000. I think after 2 or 3 months, we were up at 100,000.
Okay, I'm not speaking about number of downloads. How many information of users you had?
So information of users was 0 when we started. The reason was that we used to actually connect to white and yellow pages around the world. So it would only work in the countries where you had a white or yellow pages. And the user didn't even have to register at that point. All they did was download the application and they were in.
Okay, you never had a database at first? No. Okay, thank you.
Okay, sir. All kudos to you for a fantastic message of Truecaller that don't be panicky by the strides of giants. Don't be devastated. That is the message you convey. When giants move, you may be devastated, but don't give up. That is the fantastic message you give up the budding entrepreneurs.
Yes, our message to all entrepreneurs is definitely never give up. Actually, that's one of the values of the company. So we have 4 values, and never give up is a very important one. I think we kind of inherited it both me and Alan as well, I mean, it's among everyone we recruit, but me and Alan inherited it from our parents who immigrated to Sweden and kind of the changes that they were going through in their lives and never giving up. So that's a very important part of being an entrepreneur as well, but generally in your journey in life.
So Nami, how many, I'm surprised that these big daddies haven't acquired you yet. What are your future plans?
So our future plans is not to be acquired. We're working, collaborating with a lot of the big guys, including Google and big OEMs, etc., etc. And the way we see it, we have a very important and unique position in our markets, in the emerging markets, where we're contributing with something that the others aren't. And I think that's a mission that we will continue to push. We have a very unique position to kind of create safety and efficiency in communication, which is ultimately our vision.
Got it.
Just one more question. So, Nami, this is actually an anecdotal question. My name is Vishnu Prasad, and I run a company called Law Pundits. It deals with law-related events and conferences, and I'm also the curator for TEDx Thiruvananthapuram, which is like the TED, the local talk for the city. The reason why I say I introduce myself like that is because whenever I call someone, any important client, the message or the information that comes up in the phone is that it's Vishnu Prasad, taxi driver. So, I don't have a problem with that. But then when I call some very important clients, I prefer not to be called as a taxi driver or to be identified as a taxi driver to them. So do you think that it's a glitch with your application that if someone saves me by accident as a taxi driver, then everyone gets it as a taxi driver?
Yeah, actually, that sounds like a glitch. The thing is, a lot of people find smart ways to kind of try to game systems. So what they do is, for instance, if you write taxi driver and we don't permit taxi driver, they write it with vectors or do dots in between or do something like that. And I don't know if this is the case, but I'm just saying like that. That's different ways that people try to get that through. What needs to happen though is that enough people need to have that or contribute with that name before it actually starts to populate. However, what I recommend you to do, like on a more personal level, is to either go into our support page where you can delete or edit your information, or download the app where you can fully customize the information and own it yourself.
Are you planning to integrate with the Skype?
Sorry, hang on, sir.
So I just have a follow-up question on that, because see, doesn't that mean that in case if someone wants to, give a misinformation, say that I'm saving Nami as a, a barista, for example, Nami barista, that's how I saved it in my phone. Doesn't that mean that your whole credential gets distorted to someone who you want to reach out to?
Like fake news?
Yeah, something like a fake news or something of that sort.
That's a great point, and I think all companies that reach scale reach a level where they need to actually start to moderate the content much further. And we're doing a lot of those things every day, like fixing that, and not only in English, like in all the Indian languages that we support, which is currently 12 languages. So for all of those 12 languages, if there's combinations of words, etc., that we should be filtering out, we go through those things. Now, the other side of it is some people add that information themselves, and then you don't want to moderate that. Like if I want to call myself taxi driver because I want people who I call to know that I am a taxi driver, so they pick up the call, then that should be their choice. So there has to be some sort of moderation between what's user-generated and then on what's affecting myself. Of course, I should be able to control that fully. So we try to support all of those three cases by having the options to delete, modify without being a user, or modifying by becoming a user. So all those three options are there.
Great, thank you. Thank you.
Any
Sir, you
plan
want to
of-
speak a little louder?
Any plan of integrating with the Skype?
To integrate with Skype?
Yeah.
Oh, no, not that I'm aware of. I think, Skype is a beautiful product, but we don't have any plans to do that.
So, yeah, let me just take a quick call. Ma'am, you have anybody else this side? So just making sure everybody gets a chance. All right, good. So, ma'am, can you reach out to a microphone close by? Shall we? And while the microphone is going out, I'm going to fill you up with a quick question. We know NAMI the entrepreneur, but NAMI the person. What are your personal passions, your hobbies?
Well, my biggest personal passion right now is my son that I'm missing a lot. Is 3 months old, so my wife is really pissed that I'm away right now. But I love spending time with him, and that's my biggest personal passion right now. And then I think, aside from work, really the only other passion I have is bicycling. So.
Okay, NAMI, Kerala is the spice capital of India. So you should get a nice big box of spices. That's going to please your wife. I'm just saying, just saving your. Yeah. Ma'am, you want to go?
Hi Nami, my name is Aishwarya.
Hi.
I work for Innovation Incubator as a product manager. So my question is going to be around the product side. Like we all know that this is one of a kind, this application in the market. So what is your vision? Where do you want to take Truecaller as a product? What's the future of the product?
I love that question. Yeah, so basically, what we're gunning for is building a mobile identity platform, one that allows people to, allows for transparency and creating trust in communication. Because if you think about it, there's so very few reasons why my phone, which I've signed into 20 different apps with my phone number, given my name, etc., but and they're all walled gardens. But if you think about like WhatsApp or Viber or whatever, they're all walled gardens. You can only communicate with people who have the same app. Whereas the way we were using it with Truecaller is we're integrating with the regular workflow of the open systems, which means if you have Airtel and I have Vodafone, we can still call each other. If you have Hotmail and I have Gmail, we can still email each other. Those are the open systems. So what we're trying to do is enhance those open systems and make them better, because we think that the trust is lacking in those systems, and that's what we want to. That's what we want to do. And there's several applications for that, both in communication, but also, as we'll see throughout this year, in payments, even within Truecaller. So there's different layers of payments, so of security there, where first, when you enter a phone number, you actually get to know on the Truecaller side whether this is a spammer or a scammer. You get to know the name. If it's a business, you get to know that it's the right business that you're sending money to. So if you're typing, a VPA or a name, that someone didn't meddle with that before, you're sending money. So you get that on the Truecaller side. And those are the two different layers, both the name and the spam. And then there's a third layer, which comes from UPI itself, which is, the bank name, etc., etc. So, there's different places in your workflow, in your everyday life, where trust actually plays a huge role in a product or in your workflow. And those are the ones that we want to improve, because we feel like there is a lot of space still to improve those things. And we feel extra passionate about the opportunities in emerging markets, so that's going to be our continued focus as well.
Great.
Thanks. Thank you so much.
So who's got the mic?
Hi, Nami. Here.
Oh, hi.
Hi. So I represent the company iCubes Pro. Just in continuation to the question you had received, that how do you make money? So you said you are tied up with Google on the advertising side, right? Am I correct?
Right.
Right. So my question is, I'm sure Truecaller is having a huge database of email plus mobile numbers stacked at your end, right? Are you open, or do you have a business plan where you're open to third-party service providers other than Google, the lower
Oh,
mid-cap?
no, we don't open that stuff to Google. It's not that we open things for Google. So what we do with Google is actually, so I need to be a bit sensitive because they're also our partner and
No,
some of this stuff
I'll
is
stop you
confidential. But
just-
what I wanted to say is that what we do together with Google is that they have great relationships that they've built throughout the years with agencies. And so together when we go out and have those meetings with the agencies, it's actually creating that trust between agencies and this new ads platform, Truecaller. So that's basically our partnership. So it's not a data partnership or where we send over data to anyone, etc. We don't do those kind of things, and that's for the same reason we don't have APIs.
Great. Sorry. So unfortunately, we are running out of time. We can take. You can catch up with NAMI in the offline.
Okay.
Can we take one last question before we head out for a break, please? You have the microphone. Go for it.
Hi, Nami. First of all, thank you for bringing such a wonderful app.
Hi.
So, one basic question. So, we are familiar about the GDPR that is coming into act by the mid-May, so across the European countries. So, we are eager to know because you are handling a lot of personal data, including the email, the phone numbers and stuff. So, we were thinking like, will you have some issue or do you have some backup plans or have you done some regulations already? So we are eager to know because there are a lot of companies over here who are dealing with public data with European countries. Yeah. So we are eager to know that.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've been having a team that works, a cross kind of functional team that has been working with GDPR since about a year back. Including legal, including engineers, including product people, etc. So what we'll be doing is rolling out this privacy center, which is kind of part of what is required also from GDPR. But we'll be rolling it out for everyone. And the second thing is that we've actually been compliant with most parts of what GDPR asks for since a very long time, because we've been an opt-in service, we've been using bank rate security, we've been having things like right to be forgotten, right to edit, right to download, those kind of things. So those are the kind of things that are asked of companies. And especially platforms as we move forward, and those are the things that we're either working on or have already done in the past years, or actually since inception and since we started to build our own database, kind of.